What if you have multiple services and you're using the countdown within ProPresenter in order to display a countdown before each of those services? What's the best way to do it? Well, stick around and find out. Presented by Church Tech U, it's the ProPresenter Show. On today's show, should you do a countdown to a time or just a regular countdown timer when you have multiple services? Hi, and welcome again to the ProPresenter Show. This is the show where I teach you all about ProPresenter. My name's Paul Allen Clifford. And before we get started, if you've wrestled with this, if your team countdown to a time versus team amount of time, let me know in the comments below. And I'd love for us to discuss which is best and under what circumstances. But of course, in this video, I'm going to tell you kind of what I've come to and why I'm landing that way. So if we head on over to my computer, what I'm thinking about is right here where we've got our timers. If I click on that, let me go ahead and hide myself. I can click on the little plus button right here to add a timer. If you don't have any timers already, there's a big plus button here in the middle that you can click on. Either way, it does the exact same thing. So I'm going to do that. And now let's call this 8:30. And then I'm going to click another one, and we will call that one 10. And then I'm going to add a third one, and we're going to call that one 11:30. So you might guess that first off, I am imagining 3 different services. So an 8:30, a 10, and an 11:30 service. So I created 3 timers, one for each one. Now, alternatively, I could have created another one here, and let's just call that one, I don't know, 15 minutes. Okay, now, since that one's called 15 minutes, I'll just leave this as countdown timer, which is an amount of time. And we've got that. And now when I start it, it will always start at 15 minutes and count down just like that. So that's good. Now I haven't said where we're going to put them yet. We're going to do that here in a second. Now, for this 8:31, instead of an amount of time, I'm going to do countdown to a time. And let's do 8:30 a.m. And then for the 10, I would do countdown to a time and do that one to 10 a.m., etc. Also do the same thing for the 11:30. So that gives me my 4 possible timers there. Either my countdown to a time or my amount of time ones. Okay, now probably what I typically like to do, you can put timers on the props layer, but I like to save the props layer for other stuff because it's just so flexible and powerful. You can put them on individual slides, but in order to have it show up on all the slides you want to have it show on, you basically have to paste it onto all the slides. And so I don't think that that's the best option. So I typically use the messages layer here, which you click on this, and this is messages that you send to your congregation. So think of this paper airplane as you're sending a paper note to someone in the room, in this case everyone in the room, so you're just throwing them a paper airplane. So now let's create a new message, and I'll call this 8:30, not 8:30, 8:30 start. And then I could put a message in here, but all I'm going to do here, just to make it simple, is go down to timer and select my 8:30 timer. Okay, now when I scroll back up, you do see that that's what I've got there. Now, it's not actually moving because this is like a variable in math class, so it's just holding the place of that. Now, in order to format it however I want to, I can just select a theme here. One thing that I'm going to tell you about doing that, I'm just going to select this lower third theme here, is that if you have some of the default themes inside of ProPresenter, there are some that look like they're made perfectly for countdowns. Don't use those because they're formatted for putting a countdown on a slide, not for using with the messages layer. With the messages layer, you just use a generic theme with no linked text or anything like that, and that's how you do that. So just to show you what it looks like, if I click on this, I would expect, oh, I'm on a stage screen. I would expect on the audience screen, yeah, so we've got this. Obviously, it's 4:13 p.m. here, so it's going to be a few hours until 8:30 a.m., so that's why we've got that. And I can just change the formatting. Let me click hide here, just simply by selecting a different theme here. So if I went with this theme instead, notice that now it shows up like that instead. So just format it using the theme editor however you want. The theme editor itself is located under More, Theme Editor. Okay, so I've got that. Now I have also made some macros. So notice I've got 8:30, 10, and 11:30. Why did I make those three? Well, you're going to see here in just a second. So I'm going to right click here, go down to Add Action, go to Message, and select the 8:30 start message. Okay? Leave this the way that I have it because that's exactly the way I want it. And so I'm good to go there. I would, of course, repeat that. I would make a 10 and an 11:30 message over here, but to save time, I'm not going to do that. And I would put those in these two macros. So just to show you, I'm going to click the Clear Messages button. If I click on that, notice it comes up just like that. So that's good there. So that's working. Now, let me show you where the magic is. If we go up to View and then Calendar, and now, first off, make sure calendar is enabled. Little hint here, if for some reason let's say you've got these multiple services and one of them goes a little too long and you're looking at the clock and you're like, Pastor's going to dismiss everyone when we have 14 minutes left. And I had planned the timer to go up at 15 minutes left. Well, if that's the case, then what you can do is you can temporarily disable that, and then after that, click to re-enable it, and then subsequent services will be like that, and then you would just click on whichever macro you wanted. So I'm going to click on here, and let's do 8:30 service start. And why did I call it something slightly different? Just so that they're all related, and that's obvious, but I just know that they're not called exactly the same thing because sometimes that can get confusing. So let's repeat this every Sunday at 0815. So now at 8:15, it's going to start this every single Sunday. Now, what action do we want to use? Well, if we selected playlist, I'd have to change that every week. So that's why I made the macro, so that we can just use the same 8:30 a.m. macro every single week. Now, I don't have to wait until 8:15 tomorrow morning to test this out, although tomorrow is Thursday, so that wouldn't work either. I can just test this right here, and I expect, and yeah, there it is. So that's cool right there. I can go ahead and hide that, and everything's good. So why did I do that instead of going here to message, adding a message, calling it 15 minutes, and then doing the drop down here, and choosing the appropriate theme and everything, because, you know, that would do the exact same thing. Well, there's two real reasons why. Reason number one, while if I use the calendar, it could start exactly with 15 minutes before the service, so I don't have to like be watching it. I don't know about you, but it seems like people always seem to interrupt me right when I'm doing stuff. So that's one reason, is I would use the calendar. But going back to my example, in my example, what was going on was pastor went a little long, or maybe the music went along. I'm not throwing shade or blame on anyone. I'm just saying things went a little bit longer and you missed that 15-minute mark. Well, you could manually go in there and change it, but if you've already got the macros, sure, it's more work at front, because you're making 3 timers, one for each service. In my example, maybe you have 2 services, so that would be 2 timers. Then, not 2 timers, there would be 2 of them. Then you could also make 2 messages and 2 macros, like I was saying. Just basically you make a timer, a message, and a macro for every service, and you make a calendar entry for every service. Then, if for some reason timing doesn't work, or I actually had this happen at my church, where I was showing someone something and I was showing them on a beta version that wasn't yet released. I mean, it was a public beta, so I wasn't like, breaking an NDA or anything. So I was showing them that, but there was a glitch with it, like it had a problem. So the problem was that our countdown timer was timed to an amount of time. And that's actually what got me thinking about all of this, is just the thought of, how can I make this so that every time we do this, we've got ultimate flexibility. Sure, it should automatically start, but if it doesn't automatically start, I can use a macro to make it start a little bit later. So that's my thinking. The amount of time, that's perfectly fine if you've only got 1 service. But if you were to miss it, you've got a problem. So that's kind of the stuff that I'm thinking about. So if you would like to see just a list of exactly the steps that I use to make this, I'm just going to go through and make those and make it available to you. So head on over to get this gift to TDM.fyi/progifts. GIFTS is how that's spelled. Just want it made clear that it's not the animated graphic file, that it's actually presents that I'm giving you. There's a big list there. Take as many as you want. No harm, no foul. I'm not like saying only take the one you want. No, take as many as you want. That's fine. But we've got the list. Click the one you want. Tell me where to email it to, and I'll do that, and I'll send you announcements when we release these new tutorials and some other stuff. Until next time, this is Paul Allen Clifford from TrinityDigitalMedia.com and ChurchTechU.com, reminding you to go out and change eternity.